Online reactions work in extremes. There is no middle ground, there is no agreement, there is no compromise. You're either with us or against us. You either agree with me or you're an idiot. To better show this divide between the two factions in the community of WoW, I'm going to call in my help, my guest for today, Bipolar Disorder. And my esteemed guest is going to help me reenact a stage play centered around the protagonist, the incurable optimist. The incurable optimist is usually grounded in his opinions. He tends to see the glass half full, the bright side, the positive spin to things. Every new Blizzard system and mechanics introduced into the game will always have a reason, a way that in the end it will work. Just wait, it will be fixed in the next patch is their motto. So, with curiosity and interest, let's take a deep dive in the mind of an optimistic World of Warcraft fan in this stage play named Reasons to be Excited About World of Warcraft Shadowlands. While it is true that the other side claims that Covenants are going to be strangulating the freedom of the players, they also fail to mention the fact that Covenants in the end are still going to have a 1-week cooldown. You could be doing the quests to respec right before reset and then do the follow-up quests after the reset and essentially change them within 24 hours. It is way less drastic and catastrophic than we thought when Blizzard announced it at first. At first, it literally sounded and looked like Covenants were an expansion-defining choice. The first nebulous messages by Blizzard Blue Post and Eon were that it would have taken you a long time or a lot of grinding to change Covenants. And this has been toned down a gigantic amount. I don't believe there is reason to be overreacting about this system locking you on a 1-week cooldown. I do think it's somewhat inconvenient to have this long of a cooldown just to change your Covenant, but we have to look at the bright side here. We went from possibly 4, 5, 6 months respec time to 1 week. The other thing we have to be positive towards too is the fact that Covenants have been recently mass nerfed multiple times, and that at the end of the day Covenants are not that spec defining. There are very few Covenants that change the way you play. There are very few Covenants that are going to be extremely overpowered. These drastic and biased examples that people started making about, oh, there is going to be a Covenant for single target, a Covenant for AoE, a Covenant for cleave, and a Covenant for PvP, and you will be fucked in all the other pieces of content if you choose one. It's not true. We have seen the Covenants now. It's been months. There's definitely not the case. So there is no reason to be as annoyed by the way Covenants are going to work in Shadowlands. And just to shadow that other bitchy guy who in the other video tried to rile you guys up after Covenants mentioning Conduits being similar to Relics and being a disaster. Relics were a disaster, and that's why Shadowlands is going to be so much better, because Conduits are definitely not like Relics. It doesn't take as long to grind them. There is no Titan Forging from Mythic Plus, so once you get your Conduit from your Mythic Plus, you are done. You don't have to hope for a Titan Forge. There is fewer of them. They are not shared with other classes like Relics were, and also they are not part of the loot table of items. They are not shared with items. They are extra. Looting an item is not gonna prevent you from actually looting a Conduit. So it's definitely not like Relics. Not to mention that at the very least, in Shadowlands you have a bad luck protection or some sort of bad luck mechanism where you can just grind Stygia to buy the Conduit upgrade item. So if you don't find it from Mythic Plus, you can just use the one from Mythic 0 and upgrade it. That's also a massive improvement over Legion Relics, for example. But more importantly, what these sneaky bad guys forget to mention when they complain all the time, when they complain about Covenants, they complain about Conduits, they complain about, oh yeah, sure, Anima power is totally not like Artifact power, is going to be another grind. They forget to tell you that all of these things are the least amount of borrowed powers that we have ever had in the last 3 expansions since borrowed power started going out of control. First of all, legendaries. You can now essentially pinpoint whichever legendaries you want, in which order, at which rank to buy them. Within 3 months of the expansion, you will be able to start leveling up your own alt-spec legendaries, something that you couldn't even dream of in Legion. They have not made the acquisition of the patterns for crafting the legendary, crafting the materials. They have not made it obnoxious in any way. It's very affordable and obtainable. And then you have Conduits. Those professional complainers try to say that they were the same as Relics, when they are definitely not like Relics. So even if it might require some grinding, there is still a catch-up mechanism. There is still a bad luck protection mechanism, which eventually will get you what you want. You'll never be in a situation where you feel just lost and frustrated because you're getting fucked by RNG, like it happened in BFA and it happened in Legion with borrowed powers. And to cap this all off, The biggest thing those frauds don't tell you is that there is no AP grind. There is no AP farm. Remember those people, those sad people who started bitching when Blizzard introduced Anima Power and they were like, oh yeah, another AP system is totally not gonna be like Artifact Power. It's totally not gonna be like Azerite Power. Well, yeah, it's not. You only use Anima for Renown, and Renown is gated every week, and the only thing you use Renown for is to unlock your full Soulbind talent tree, which you will fully unlock in like 2 months, and then you're done. And then you spend Anima for like transmog, pets, toys, and minigames in your Covenant system. It's extremely lax as a grind system. You see, the other side of the fence is too used at getting everything on a silver platter. Otherwise they complain. Why is it bad for you to only get the loot and the gear that you deserve? Why is it bad to remove all sorts of RNG and undeserved loot from the game? No more Titan Forging, no more War Forging, no more corruption, no more free loot from a war table mission, no more free loot from Warfronts, no more free loot from a weekly time-walking dungeon completion quest or mythic dungeon completion quest, or raid bosses completion quest. Any sort of free loot is gone now, which is great. Even bonus rolls are fucking gone. Now you get choices. People complaining that the bonus rolls are gone and that especially Mythic Plus is now dropping less item level than Heroic. Look at this. These are your chances at fully decking out in Bis gear from BFA's cache, and these are the ones from the new vault. Based on the amount of content you do, you're nearly 3 times as fast at decking out in full Bis gear, just from the vault, not even from actual content. This is great, and it puts into perspective looting less item level from Mythic Plus. You won't need that high of an item level when every week you can get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different choices for your slot. On top of that, we have to defend a little bit Heroic Raiders and Heroic difficulty. Heroic raiding has become a joke in the past 2 expansions. It didn't used to have this reputation in Warlords of Draenor, for example. Why is that? Why do you think? Is it that maybe, I mean, just maybe, it could be because Mythic Plus also launched in Legion, which is what allowed people to spam farm Mythic Plus, spam proc Titan Forges, and enter Heroic 20 item levels higher than they were supposed to be. Then, by the time Heroic releases, people are already farming plus 10s and getting higher than Heroic gear already. Isn't that maybe why Heroic has such a bad reputation now? And you should look at this change in item level drop the opposite way. It shouldn't be a bad thing because Mythic Plus is harder than Heroic raiding, therefore you should drop higher loot. You should see it in a way of farming Mythic Plus is so easy that it gives you too much loot so that you can do Heroic raid massively overgeared, which makes Heroic raiding too easy. Therefore, if we make Mythic Plus drop less loot, nearly 60% less loot than in BFA, and lower its item level, it should make Heroic raiding harder, which in return should also make the loot from Heroic raiding more important, more valuable. Maybe that's why they are doing this. Just a thought. Just a thought. You see, this is why it's so tiring trying to argue with these people. When they have such a strong hate-fuck relationship with something, they would find any excuse to rail on it. Now apparently even the story has become an issue. Even the fact that the zones are only 4 and they are a little bit too small, and the fact that there is no new class, and there is no new spec, and there is just 8 dungeons, why there isn't 9 or 10, and why is it only 8? Everything becomes an issue. 8 dungeons on release are more than enough, especially because they are all unique, there is no new rehash of the past. The lack of class and specs is hilarious. These people have 36 specs they can choose from, they can barely play one to get past 1000 Raider IO, and they want to play a 37th one. Start learning to play one that's already in the game, and only after you can start demanding new specs and classes. Don't we have enough already? Isn't 36 enough of a number? And the zones? The zones are beautiful. I would take 1 Revendreth over 10 Voldunes. Even when it comes to the story. First of all, clearly, the real story is gonna be about the jailer, so even the start of the zone stories are not that meaningful. Not like BFA, where we know that the first part of the story was going to be the war between the factions, and then the later half is going to be, N'Zoth. But even what we have seen so far is not even that bad. Like, Revendreth is another Suramar. Am I supposed to be offended by that? Suramar was the best storyline in Legion. Why is bad that he's back in the form of smug vampires? It's good. Ardenweald is intriguing because the Drast are back, and the Drast can't reproduce, and Ardenweald has an entire system for endlessly rejuvenating souls and endlessly giving birth to them again, so the Drast want to take over Ardenweald, so they have a new baby machine factory. It's interesting enough, and plus the Drast are interesting from BFA, it's okay. Maldraxxus, come on, we do have Grog players, right? We do have some cavemen playing the game. Why can't they just enjoy some low IQ, smashing skull style faction? It's okay. And Bastion, the story of Bastion doesn't matter. The story of Bastion is irrelevant because Bastion is gonna be played by those white, human, male, paladin LARPing players. They don't give a shit about the story. They just want a white, golden, light blue style and thematic and aesthetic. Who cares about the story? Man. That was really exhausting. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You are too kind. No, I don't deserve it. You are too kind. Thank you. Well then, with this, we have done our characterization of the typical optimist in its natural habitat, fighting the bitter and venomous pessimist when it comes to new features and upcoming features of Shadowlands, why they will or will not fail, and why they are or are not good. I hope you enjoyed it. Actually, I wonder which one you enjoyed more. Which one struck closer to the chords of your heart when it comes to Shadowlands? Which one are you leaning towards? The pessimist or the optimist? Let me guys know. In the meantime, I have to go and show up for the Oscars.